Just Don't Give a Fuck, or was it any particular song?
That was the song.
Yeah,
that was the
it.
song?
That was the one, I would say. And that was on the tape that he sent me too.
And Denon produced that song.
You produced that, Denon?
Denon at the time was making 90% of my beats. So it was the basic gist of it would just be I would go get a beat from Denon and try to go into, I think at that time it was probably the Bass Brothers Studios, and just we try to put our money together and book some studio time and get as much done as we could. So vocals didn't even have time to like perfect them or anything like that.
You couldn't record on your laptop or sit at home and make demos, none of that shit.
You couldn't do that, right?
I mean, the cheapest thing you would have is like a 4-track Tascam cassette. You remember those, right?
Yeah.
But they sounded like shit.
Yeah, they sound. But back then, you thought it sounded like gold, though.
Yeah.
I mean, just the ability to put your voice on it over a beat was all incredible. But what he's saying is you had limited time and you had to perform, so you didn't have a whole lot of time to screw around and.
You had to know your verses by heart, get in there, say them, and be done. You had to cram it into 1 hour. And,
You did a video for that, right? I don't give a fuck. The video
for Just Don't Give a Fuck.
Just Don't Give a Fuck. But that was after we got signed with Dre. But yeah, Just Don't Give a Fuck was probably the first song I wrote. I was like, yo, this is what happened in chronological order.
Okay.
Proof had took a trip to New York, and he was about to get signed to Tommy Boy. He had a deal. There was talk of him having a deal on the table with Tommy Boy. He did a trip to New York. He had Dylan making a lot of his beats, his producer MK.
And he had some shit out that was popping too, like it was getting on the radio in Detroit. And
yeah,
Proof was the one. Like everybody, like just knew, like that's what's gonna happen from Detroit. Like he's the guy.
Yeah.
And then when he took the trip to New York, and I remember him being super excited about it, and all of us were, because we were like, fuck, man, Dilla had got on first pretty much. Like when we heard Running from Far Side, it was like a spark for Detroit, because it had been a while, since the recognition had come back to our city. You know what I'm saying? So we were super excited for that. And then Proof's going to New York, and he's going to get a deal. And then when he comes back, he's going to come back for all of us. And, we were super excited. And then I remember, man, me and Nani were staying on Fairport at the time, and Proof came back from New York, and it was kind of like the wind was out of his sails a little bit. Something happened at that meeting, and he didn't really, I don't think he ever discussed it with us. He never really discussed it with us, but I could tell he was like, he called me from New York when he was still there. He was about to come home. He was like, yo, we need to get everybody. We need to click up. We need to get me, you, Denon, Bizarre, everybody who was basically like what we felt like were some of the top-notch guys at the hip-hop shop at the time.
Yeah. And
make a group. Like, he was just hitting me, like, he just had this thought out, like, yo, we need to have aliases. You'll be Eminem, and you'll be somebody else, Denon will be Denon Porter, and Denon will be somebody else. And it just was hitting us with the idea of coming up with aliases.
Yeah.
And when we're in this group, we're going to call it Dirty Dozen, and when we're in this group, we're going to rhyme and say the shit that we would never say as regular solo artists. Just say the most outlandish shit. And at the time was like, yo, I mean, it resonated with all of us. We were like, fuck, it sounds like a good idea. Why not? You know? So that's what we ended up doing. And I think Just Don't Give a Fuck was one of the first songs that well, not the first song, because we were recording in the basement. Demos, yeah.
Yeah.
And
so what I think it did was it gave him license to do stuff that he wasn't normally doing with his rap persona.
And
so
say the shit that I never.
So this alter ego, which was Slim Shady.
Oh, man, that's great.
And then, but that's really more like what he was, because he felt like he didn't have the responsibility to be like this, vision of what people saw as a rapper. He could do the ill shit, and the ill shit really was more who he was as an artist. And he sort of just tapped into that and ran with it.
It was shit that I always wanted to say, but I never hadn't figured out how to say it in my raps yet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like to be able to put it into rhyme. It was the way I felt, but I wasn't necessarily writing at that time with Infinite and all that. I wasn't really writing like a lot of the ways that I felt. And if I wasn't expressing it how I really wanted to,
Wow, man, I haven't heard that one, like in such detail. I knew, I know the basics, but
yeah,
I like the story. I like the picture to be painted, And then, so from there, now you fast forward, we're in 2015, and we were talking about this on the radio today, because I was telling the listeners, by the way, I got some listener questions for you, that you kind of got to admire the fact that you guys as a tandem from day one, we've seen a lot of people, whether it's Rockefeller Records, whether it's we see him from Cash Money, but you guys have always stayed together, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been no interruption in our relationship since I started working with him back in '97. But I started off as his lawyer, and I thought that's what I wanted to do with my career. And I didn't discover my Slim Shady yet, which was being a manager.
Okay.
Yeah, and his Slim Shady's ripping me off now.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Wow.
So now I'm lining them pockets, B.
Yeah.
Right.
Word.
Well, here's what we came here to do today is that we've been doing this shit for a long time, and we figure it's time to switch roles. So Paul is going to go back to spitting,
Okay.
and I'm going to manage him.
Okay. So
Yes.
this is the rebirth.
Do you think that's a good idea?
Man, for parody, for parody purposes, I think.
What does parody mean?
Parody means a parody is...
Oh, you got jokes.
Yeah, I got jokes. I got a lot, yeah. Tell the truth, though. You don't think that's a good idea?
I think it is because who would know better how to manage an artist than an artist, dude?
Exactly, right?
A manager.
See what I'm saying?
A
And
manager.
you learn being a manager. Being a manager, yeah.
And who would know better how to rap than a manager who managed a great rapper?
Good point. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah. So
What about me?
You're the great rapper,
Oh,
but now I'm going to be the great rapper.
exactly. Yo, Sway, you ain't even heard him spit yet, so don't judge, man. Until
can we?
Maybe at the end. Maybe at the end.
Maybe at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah, yeah.
You'll save one for us,
Maybe.
That's why he wanted to
maybe.
be a lawyer,
Yeah.
so he can spit.
to pass the bar.
Okay. The pass. Ooh.
Yo,
That was free.
That was free.
yeah, that was off the top of
that
the
was
dome.
The top. That was
That was
skills,
free right
kid.
there.
So much more where that came from.
We've got more Sway in the morning.
Only on Shade45.
Hey, I was reading something today about you, all facts though, and you were awarded a new diamond certification and recognition of Not Afraid, man. It's your second one. Love the way you lie as well. Man, congratulations, bro.
Thank you.
Man,
Thank you.
diamond is how much? Is that 100? How many sales is that?
It's like 60 copies.
60?
Diamond for an album is 10 million,
10 million.
but a single, I forgot how many it is.
Nah, it's 10 million.
Then it's got shit
For a
to
single,
do,
it's
man.
10 million too?
It's 10 million.
So 10 million singles.
10 million seagulls. So when you hear that story about the beginnings, before you found your voice,
Yeah, that doesn't. Now it doesn't make sense.
it doesn't, right, but no, what it's like to see how far you guys have come. Was there ever a time you thought you wasn't going to make it? Like Paul obviously thought he wasn't going to make it as a rapper, so you.
Absolutely, many times. When I lost the battle, when I took second place in the Rap Olympics. At the time, I've said this story before though, but at the time it was like $500 cash was awarded to the winner, whoever won, and a Rolex. And I don't know why the Rolex. I don't know if it was a real Rolex or I don't know, but I just knew that at the time I had just got evicted from my house. I had nowhere to live, so I needed that money. But on top of that, the fact that I lost, I thought at that point in time, that was probably the lowest that I had gotten out of that whole time, because I thought at that point in time, I thought it was over many times. Like and then there'd be a little spark, and then it would be like, okay, it's enough to keep me going.
Yeah.
And then something else would happen, and it just shit would just keep taking the wind out of my sails. And
What
I know
about
that.
in recent times? Was there a time like in the new millennium that you thought, man, this might be it?
Oh yeah, I thought that too. When at my lowest through my addiction and everything, for sure, I felt that. I felt like I couldn't write anymore. Like I don't know what it was about. I think that I got so caught up in my addiction that I just fucking took pills all day, or was just either incoherent, whatever, was just thinking about my next pill. To the point where I think that it probably a little bit of that, and the fact that it stopped up, it was like blocking my whatever cells drugs fuck with, especially Ambien in your brain cells, whatever chemical that is, it just couldn't write anymore.
You couldn't write anymore. The reason why I'm asking you this because we were talking about the character that Jake Gyllenhaal plays in this movie. Southpaw, and he's at the top of the world. At one point, and then after he lost his wife. He went into this deep depression and went into this hole. And it was basically, well, I don't want to tell the whole movie. Well,
No, I mean, that's sort of in the trailer.
That's in the trailer. Okay, so.
basically.
Well, when everyone dies at the end, I think that
Excuse me?
Yeah, serious, you haven't seen it yet, right? But his daughter is what kind of got him off his ass and, inspired him and got him remotivated.
Yeah.
And that's similar to, that's like parallel to your life in a